I don't know how much you even care to talk about this, but your parts have been counterfeit pretty heavily. I'm curious what, like, because it just seems like you've gotten the broad end of counterfeit parts more than a lot of companies.
Yeah.
But not just counterfeit of like a different brand, like counterfeit down to like the serial numbers. How does that all happen, and what goes on there?
I mean, generally the counterfeit market is, kind of tied to obviously Asia in terms of identifying. They don't have the same, I want to say, view of intellectual property, right? That most of the Western world will look at and go, this is a thing that's important, right? The amount of time it takes to produce a product is much easier to copy that product. So you have a much lower cost. So reality is that the continued counterfeiting, not only just counterfeiting, but basically just pure, theft of the IP, right? Because if you can't protect the IP, if you go to the trouble to develop something and you can't protect it with any kind of IP at all, then it's free to copy, right? And the copy can get produced at a significantly lower cost than the development, right? Because there's a lot of goes into development. If you don't have to develop anything and you just have to copy it, it's much lower cost.
Yeah.
And
no R&D cost into
no R&D
product,
cost at all to develop any of it, right?
Just buying the initial one from you.
In Asia in general, the supply side of that is they're set up to basically take any product, doesn't matter, anybody, right, can go take a product from any manufacturer, send it off to Asia and have it copied, right? It's very common today. So it hurts the industry from an innovation standpoint, because eventually the guys who are creating the new designs and development and have that next level of performance or in their product, right, may not even get 12 months to capitalize on that. Like they've already got a copy showing up of their product within 6 to 12 months of bringing it out. So if it's popular, it's performing, it's already getting knocked off, right? Now, maybe not a pure counterfeit. It may not have your name on it, or you may mean it being a brand violation, but it's a direct copy. So if you don't have IP that have some protection capabilities within that, so now you have to be very cognizant of, are you going to spend any money to develop on a new thing? Because it's just going to get taken if it's successful.
And that's where yours was kind of almost different than others, though, is because they go down.
They went out and counterfeited it. No, we've seen
to the brand name and everything, though. It's not just
right down to the name and the casting and you name it. They're copying it, best they can, 100%. Now the copies are often somewhat, we'll say, not, they're visual direct copies. A lot of times they're not, some of the design engineering isn't copied because they don't know what exactly that's there for. If you're copying something, you don't necessarily know why something was done. Why was the material selected? Why was they just like, hey, it represents the visual appearance of your product, so therefore it's good enough, right, to do that. And we've had, we battled it as much as we can, especially in the 2000s when we were initially getting knocked off very heavily.
When was that? When did you first start seeing them kind of hit the U.S.
Oh, mid-2000s. By 2005, 6, they were already significant counterfeits out on the market with, our name on it. They weren't even stainless, like our wastegates were stainless. They were like cast iron, but it had our name on it, right?
Yeah.
And you could tell by machining quality, material quality. It wasn't the same product, but the consumer isn't necessarily going to be able to tell. And so eBay was better back in the day about allowing us to remove counterfeited products from their platform. But today they basically fight you on being able to remove counterfeit product from the market. Like there's counterfeit product all over, not just us. I mean, everyone's being hammered on counterfeit product. And they've made it. They give you a tool, but it's hard to use. So it's not like they said no, we're not going to do anything about it. It's just that they make it more difficult for you to actually go in and do something about it.
And fighting these guys is obviously not the easiest battle.
Who are you going to go talk to at any of these selling platforms? Nobody.
Yeah.
You're never going to. I mean, unless you've got the kind of a full-time legal staff to go out and go after these kinds of things, which virtually nobody in our business of performance aftermarket has that kind of money to go after
I've heard the concept of like if you just move fast enough, you don't have to worry about that. Like you just keep evolving and changing.
Well, you do keep
stuff.
evolving, and that's always done. It's kind of the nature of business in general. Like how can I improve the thing I do and make it better? But the having to do that means cost, right? So at some point it becomes unaffordable because you can't just iterate all the time, on a 12-month or month basis. You'd never get a payback from your original design effort to even bring it to market. You're going to get chopped off at the knees, basically, with the copies.
It just seems like your product was rare where like people actually had to like teach people how to distinguish sometimes the difference, which...
Yeah. Which we did do through various, social media and so forth to try to let people know that, if you see our product brand new, quote unquote, advertised, and it's being sold for a third of the cost of what we typically get sold for, it's probably not actually our product would be the first clue, that if it's being sold at a fraction of the cost. We also serialize all of our products so that we can help customers identify it, right? They would literally copy the serial number. They copy the same serial number.
Just across the board.
So they would have like a series of maybe 5 or 6 serial numbers. They would just keep putting on the same.
Well, he'd even say made in the U.S., which is just a bold-faced lie to put on.
No, well, of course it's not made in the U.S.
Yeah.
But again, if the arm of any kind of enforcement doesn't stretch across the Pacific, right, to enforce anything that's going on. Ease of importation, right? So anybody in the U.S. today can just simply go on to Alibaba or eBay or any of the other platforms. It says shipping from China right on it. So how do you stop, 500 different points of sale coming in through? I mean, how would even customs deal with that? Like, how would you stop all the points that it can enter the country, either through ocean, through air? They have planes flying over daily, right?
Yeah.
And dropping product everywhere throughout the United States. So it's a monumental task. Even if they were trying to do something about it, it would be very difficult. It would be easier to do something if the consumers are educated about what they're getting, right? That way they can make more sound decisions. Do they support, just getting copies of the original products? And is that, like, do they put any weight into that or not? And I don't know if that they do or don't, but that would be an easier way to defend it.
I was thinking about that as you said it. Like, I think I would support a good amount of shaming of people. If you see somebody with a fake any product, really.
Right. No,
I
to
do
their
support
benefit.
on my side of things.
Yeah.
From you as a manufacturer, you don't have to support the shaming, but I could support shaming fellow car enthusiasts for rolling out a car with fake everything across the board, fake wheels, fake.
I think that most people don't understand the impact of what that is. They don't really evaluate it. And then some people are just, you have to understand that a lot of people are enthusiasts, right? They're not technically, they're enthusiasts for performance, but they're not technically understanding the product, right? They don't create the product. They're not engineers. They're, but I want to have a car, right? So I can't fault every customer for not knowing what they're looking at. They don't necessarily, are not necessarily educated on what they're purchasing and going, besides the consequence of what happens when you buy, again, counterfeited products or copied products from the original manufacturers. So.
Yeah, I can see how that could be frustrating on your side of things.
It is. It's frustrating, but you hope that the general public will come in and say something about it, because I think that a lot of times if the manufacturer is saying something about it, people get upset about that. If we were the ones pointing it out, it's better when the more educated, the more knowledgeable, not necessarily educated, but more knowledgeable people in the market can point it out. And maybe people will make better decisions.
I worry that there's also shop owners out there that might be selling the counterfeit part but charging the full price.
There's certainly a possibility of that happening.
Maybe less now with social media and stuff.
Yeah.
But I'm sure in the early 2000s, where if you get your car built, you don't really. What are you going to post it on the forum and ask people about it? It's kind of a tougher deal to verify this stuff. Now, I mean, if you post an engine bay picture of your car, 10,000 people could tell you right away what's wrong with it.
Yeah, well, there's an interesting story on counterfeits, because we did get a call from actually Homeland Security, basically on counterfeited product indirectly, right? There was and I won't name exact names, but I'll give the general story, which is there was a company selling counterfeit airbags. Okay, so there was a safety thing, and one of the U.S. manufacturers. Again, I'll just leave the names out of the manufacturer, so I'll just tell the story. But they're like, so they have, so if you're a large manufacturer in the United States, you have a voice to talk to somebody like, hey, so-and-so is selling counterfeited airbags. It was just come onto our radar screen. And then when they looked at that particular company that was doing that, and they were on multiple like eBay and other platforms selling, they came across our product and they go, we found these counterfeited airbags being sold, but we found that these guys were selling an overwhelming amount of your product, like in excess of what they were selling for these airbags. They were selling, so in an 18-month period, they sold $900,000 of counterfeited product.
Just of yours or
of our product?
Oh my God!
Yeah, just one seller.
Holy cow!
Yeah, so it's, the amount that's product selling at a third of the cost of ours. So if you multiplied it into real cost of sales, if some person were buying our product versus theirs, that's $2.7 million of lost revenue potential for companies who are producing legitimate product, right? So it's a huge problem, generally not addressed, and the consumer generally is not necessarily concerned. They're not. I don't think they're concerned. I don't know.
They may just not know.
They may not know.
They may just legitimately not know, or there's the other argument that I've heard is like, oh, well, I'm doing it on a budget, and it's like, yeah, but that doesn't mean you get to just do that.
No, I know.
We're all on a budget.
I think you just put your blinders on and you're not really paying attention. But I think this is nature today, is that people don't necessarily pay. They're going out and consuming. They're spending a few minutes of time. They're trying to identify the product they want. They don't know if they're buying a counterfeit. So I'm going to say that generally speaking, they may have an idea or maybe they don't, and they don't have the time to figure it out. So
that's why it's worth just going to like a real dealer of your products as well, or just right to your website. But a dealer, I always tell people to go to dealers for products because then you get to harass that dealer if you have any questions.
But you also you could actually get a warranty. So people will call up and say, "I've got one of your products." We've had this happen many times, and it's a counterfeit product, right? And they try to give us a serial number. They're like, "I'm sorry that you bought a counterfeit product. I can't provide support for the product." But if you bought our product, you'd have a warranty, you would have support if there's something wrong with it, somebody to help you use the product if you don't know how to use it because you're just new to the market, right? And you're trying to build your car at home and you don't have any support. Yep. We support our product and we support customers, right? And if you bought a counterfeit, you have nobody to call. There's nobody for you to call.
It'd be a real shame if you bought a counterfeit for the same cost. That'd be a
I'm
real
sure that's
bummer.
happened also.
I'm sure that's
happened too. So again,
that's a tough pill to swallow.
Yeah. So if you're spending the actual money and you paid the full price and you got a counterfeit, but you don't know because the counterfeits are good enough that unless we're looking at it, we can identify things that are specific, but general consumer who would never know this. They would be like, it looks the same to me. And I'm like, from your observation, it would be.
Well, if you've never actually even seen
You've never seen another one up close. Now, if you put them side by side, I could go, well, here's the things that allow us to identify the differences in the product. It's a counterfeited product versus ours.
I got mine over here off my car.
Let's hope it's not counterfeit.
I don't think so. I mean, I got like 80 passes on that thing.
Yeah, no, it's
probably like 150 passes on it.
Yeah. No, this is not. I can tell by the. Generally, there's several features I can look at immediately to determine whether it's.
It looks like it just came out of the box, but it actually does have a lot of use on it.
Yeah. But yeah, no, that's not counterfeit.
Good to know. So it's a real one.
It is a real one.
Yeah, it has a real serial number on it.
Yeah, well, again, it can be spoofed also, but it's like I said, for us as the manufacturer, we usually don't point out the obvious. With the customer, we will. Like, here's the things that tell us why this is different and why we know it's a counterfeit. I generally don't publish only because that just makes the counterfeiters more better at counterfeiting. If you tell them what I'm able to discern between their copy of my product, I don't like to point it out too obviously. I point it out to the customer, in an email or whatever. We'll be direct about that, but generally wouldn't broadcast it because I don't want to point out the obvious things that may not be obvious to them. So
that makes sense. Guys, thank you for tuning in to the Bogetti Clips YouTube channel. For the full podcast, check us out on Bogetti Studios YouTube and all your audio platforms. Also, hit that subscribe button to not miss out on any of the new Bogetti Clips coming up.